Okay, so we're using ratios and rates to solve proportions. So for input today, we actually do have the language of the discipline word. We actually have a couple. We have 3 today. So go ahead and draw your lips. And your first word is, I need a different color, ratio. Go ahead and write ratio. And the definition is a comparison of 2 numbers by division. So you compare 2 numbers using division. A comparison of 2 numbers by division. Your second word is rate. Rate. And rate is a ratio of 2 different units. A ratio of 2 different units. Like for example, miles per hour, right? Miles and hours are 2 different units. That's a rate. And our last one is unit rate. Unit rate. And unit rate is a rate with a denominator of 1. Rate with a denominator of 1. A rate with a denominator of 1. A rate with a denominator of 1. That's love when you have those 3 definitions. Thank you, Boyce and Wesley. Thank you, Shrey and Robert. Okay, so then I'm going to give you the steps for how to do this. So you're just going to write down steps on your paper. Okay? Step number 1 is you're going to cross multiply. Cross multiply. Step 2, you're going to simplify each side, which was what we did last week. Simplify each side. And step 3, isolate the variable. Three steps. Cross multiply, simplify each side, then isolate the variable. We'll usually skip a person doing modeling the days we have world language because we lose some time. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do these type of problems. Okay? So, you might get a problem that looks like this. Well, your directions will first say to solve each portion. Go ahead and write the directions. Solve each proportion. Those are your directions. Okay, so number 1, it'll look like this. G over 5 equals 6 over 10. That's a G. G over 5 equals 6 over 10. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, step 1, tells me to cross multiply. So I'm going to draw my arrow from here to here. So I'm going to multiply 10 and G, and 5 and 6. Yes? All right. Okay, so that's step 1 right there. Write it next to it. Step 1, we cross multiply. Step 2, we're going to simplify each side, so I'm going to rewrite it. So G times 10 equals 5 times 6. Right? You got to cross multiply. That's why I draw the arrows, so make sure you draw the arrows. 10 times G, 5 times 6. Okay, so I'm going to simplify each side. So G, 10G equals 30. So that was my step 2. I simplified as much as I possibly could. 10G equals 30. From there, I'm going to isolate the variable. I'm going to divide by 10 on both sides because I want to get G by itself. Okay? So my 10s cancel each other out. And I am left with G equals 30 divided by 10 is 3. And then you box your answer. Okay, and that was step 3. Remember, if you do my notes like I do, you will not get lost. Put your pencil up once you've written all of that down. Thank you. So it's just that one extra step, cross multiply. Then it's just like all the problems we've been doing. Okay? Here's number 2. 2 over 9 equals 10 over x. So I go look back at my step 1, and it tells me that I need to cross multiply. So I know I'm going to multiply x times 2 and 9 times 10. So again, I have 2 times x equals 9 times 10. And I'm going to go back and look at my step 2, which tells me to simplify each side. So this becomes 2x equals 9 times 10 is 90. Then lastly, step number 3 tells me to isolate the variable. So to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. My 2's cancel each other out. I'm left with x on the left side. And 90 divided by 2 is 45. And then box your answer. When you're good with that, put your pencil up. Awesome. Okay, number 3. Now, it gets a little more complicated, not too much. 3 over 6 equals x minus 3 over 8. Same steps, same concept. Okay? I look back what step 1, number 1 tells me, and I need to cross multiply, then simplify, then isolate. So I'm going to cross multiply first. So it'll be 8 times 3. And 6 times x minus 3. Now be careful how you write it. So I have 8 times 3 equals, follow my arrows, 6 times x minus 3. 6 times x minus 3. Then it's just like we've done it before. We have to simplify each side. But in order to do that, on this side, I must distribute. Okay, so 8 times 3 is 24 equals distributing 6 times x is 6x. Bring down my minus sign. 6 times 3 is 18. And you know how to do these. Okay, so I need to get the variable by itself. I'm going to add 18 on both sides. So I'm going to add 18 on both sides. And draw my line under. My 18s cancel out because it's negative positive. So on this side, I'm left with 6x. On the other side, I need to do 24 times 18, which is 42. So now I need to isolate my variable. So to get the variable by itself, I'm dividing by 6 on both sides. And everyone's writing this down with me. My 6's cancel. So I have x left on this side. And 42 divided by 6 is 7. So x equals 7. So that's just that extra step of distributing. Okay? Number 4, we have a negative x minus 1 over 4 equals 2/3. Oh, Miss Brown, there's a negative sign. Okay? Decide whether you want to give the negative to your top number or your bottom number. So I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to put my negative in the bottom. So I'm going to rewrite that as x minus 1 over, and I'm going to put my negative to the bottom number, negative 4 equals 2/3. Doesn't matter if you give it to the top or the bottom number, you'll get the same answer. Alright, step 1 tells me to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 3 times x minus 1 and negative 4 times 2. So on this side, I'm going to get 3 times the quantity of x minus 1. And if I follow my arrows on the other side, I'm going to get negative 4 times 2. So then I need to simplify each side, which means I see that I need to distribute over here. 3 times x is 3x minus 3 times 1 is 3. So we distributed. And then negative 4 times 2 is a negative 8. Negative 8. So now I'm going to get the variable by itself. So isolate it by adding 3 on both sides. You know, in your line under. My 3's cancel each other out. So I'm left with 3x on the left side. Negative 8 plus 3 is a negative 5. Isolate the variable, divide by 3 on both sides. X is going to equal negative 5 over 3. You can either leave it like that, or you can turn it into an improper fraction. I'm going to leave it for today. So I'm just going to say x is negative 5 over 3. In the next one, I'll show it in an improper fraction. Good. Pencil up if you got it. 2 more examples. Flying. Very simple if you follow the steps. Number 5. 2x minus 2 all over 14 equals 2x minus 4 all over 6. So that's going to be a double distributor. I can already see it. So cross multiply first. So you're going to multiply 6 times 2x minus 2. I'm going to multiply 14 times 2x minus 4. So go ahead and rewrite it. 6 times the quantity of 2x minus 2. Keep writing. Equals 14 times the quantity of 2x minus 4. So all we did was cross multiply. Okay? Now we have to distribute on both sides to simplify. So I have to distribute 6. I also have to distribute the 14 into its simplest form. So I have 6 times 2x, which is 12x. Bring down my minus sign. And then 6 times 2, which is 12. Equals, on this side I have 14 times 2, which is 28x. Bring down your minus sign. And then I have 14 times 4, which is 56. So again, I distributed both sides of the equation to make it as simple as possible. Now I'm going to put all my variables on one side. We did this the other day. Subtract 28x from both sides. Notice how I put it one right under the other. So now my 28x's have canceled out. On this side, 12 minus 28x is negative 16x. Minus 12 is still there, equals minus 56, so negative 56. 12 minus 28, which is a negative number, different sign, subtract. Kept the number equals, and we're still left with the subtraction, so negative 56. So now I need to add 12 to both sides to get the variable isolated. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Now my 12's cancel. The negative 12 and the positive 12 cancel out. So on this side I'm left with negative 16x equals, again, 56 and a positive 12. Different signs subtract. So I should get 44 and negative 44. Almost there. To isolate the variable, I need to divide by negative 16 on both sides. So finally, x is by itself. And negative 44 divided by negative 16 is going to be positive 44 over 16. And in this case, I'm going to show you that I'm just going to change it into an improper fraction because they might ask you that. So side note over here, I'll show you my work. So 44 divided by 16, you guys can try it too. 44 divided by 16. I know it goes in about twice, so I'll get 32. And I'll be left with 12. My 12 was in the numerator, the 16 was in the denominator. But I need to simplify, and that simplifies to 3/4, because if I divide both top and bottom by 4, that's what I'll get. So my answer should be 2 3/4. So back over here, x equals 2 3/4. Box my answer. So if they ask you to put in improper fraction, you know how to do that. Our last example, one second, okay? Our last example is a word problem, okay? The last one is a word problem, number 6. We're gonna write it down with me. Suppose you traveled Suppose you traveled 84 miles in 1.5 hours. Everyone write that down. Suppose you traveled 84 miles in 1.5 hours. Moving at the same speed, comma, how many miles would you cover in 3 1/4 hours? Suppose you traveled 84 miles in 1.5 hours. Moving at the same speed, how many miles would you cover in 3 1/4 hours? This is going back to the definition of rate, right? Using two different types of mediums, right? So in this case, I'm looking at the problem and I go, I'm using miles and hours. I'm using miles and hours, so I'm going to write that down. So I'm using miles to hours. I'm using miles to hours. So if I'm using miles to hours, I'm going to look at that problem and say, miles, I have this 84 right here. And I also, they're asking me, how many miles? So I know that's going to be a variable. Then I look back at the problem again and I say, I have 1.5 hours and 3 1/4 hours. So I found my proportion. Okay? Here we go. So I should have 84 miles and 1.5 hours, miles to hours, equals, so I'm writing my own proportion, miles has to stay on top. So if I look back, it says how many miles, so that's going to be x. X miles over x to 3 1/4 hours. I know 3 1/4, 1/4 is 0.25, like quarters, right? So I know that that's 3.25 hours. So my miles stay on the top, my hours go on the bottom. So this was 84 to 1.5, this was x to 3.25. So then you do the same thing, cross multiply, rewrite it, 84 times 3.25, so I'm following my arrows, equals 1.5 times x. Okay, so now 84 times 3.25, I'll do the math for you on the side so you can see. So I have 3.25 times 84. Okay, then I get 20, I get 10, I get 13. Add the 0, I get 40, I get 20, and then I get 26. When I add them up, I end up with 273 and 2 zeros. I count my place values, I have 2, so the decimal goes right there. So 273. So 84 times 3.25 is 273. Equals, on the other side, 1.5x. Divide both sides by 1.5 to get x by itself. These guys cancel out. 273 divided by 1.5 is 182 equals x. Or you can write it as x equals 182. What am I looking for? It says how many miles. So it's 182. I need to make sure I write down what it is. Miles. X equals 182 miles. Alex, you can go ahead and stop the recording when you're ready.